There's a lot of weirdness happening in a recent culture war, and one of which is a battle between two films that shouldn't have been a battle, and yet the culture war makes it out to be. We're gonna talk about it with you guys in a bit, but before that, huge thanks to Azure Artisan and DDD on Patreon, and very late shoutouts to Weebu United Task Force, Lost Aussie, and Boomstick Baron on Subscribestar, because they didn't notify me that I have new subscribers there. Regardless, you guys are fantastic. If you're not really paying attention to the latest trend of superhero films, the DCEU puts the next installment of its mixed bag of a universe with Birds of Prey and the fantabulous emancipation of one Harley Quinn, a title so long, unnecessary, and tries so hard to be quirky that people forgot about the rest and only remember the Birds of Prey part, even though it's not related to Birds of Prey. It's more of a Harley Quinn film than a Birds of Prey film, but whatever. In Birds of Prey, Harley Quinn broke up with the Joker and she can't get over it, so she went to Reddit and complained about it. Actually, I don't think she's insane enough to do that. So instead, she just decided to hang out with people and work with them, one of whom is Roman Sionis, aka Black Mask. Unfortunately, Harley Quinn does something that pisses off Black Mask that I can't remember. I think she broke the driver's legs or something. So Black Mask is on the hunt for her alongside a cop who is a really old Renee Montoya. Can Harley Quinn escape from their clutches and maybe form friends along the way? I am quite familiar with DC's comic universe, mostly through watching their cartoons and reading the Wikia pages, and even through the Wikia pages I can confirm to you that Birds of Prey shown in the comics are not the Birds of Prey shown in the films. It doesn't even have Barbara Gordon, aka Batgirl, aka Oracle in it, one of the crucial members of the Birds of Prey team. Okay, it does have a character whose name is similar to another character that is Batgirl, but I can assure you that this character is no Batgirl. Interestingly enough, despite the box office results, I'm hearing mixed opinions on this film. Some people say it was fun, others say it was trash. I've seen this film a while ago and I'm on the latter category. I thought this film was just boring. Now, it isn't really the worst thing that I've seen, but the film overall is just a mess. It's a film that is quirky for the sake of being quirky, but that's built on a plot that doesn't really have any significance. I can tell you that this film is not made for the people who are fans of Birds of Prey source material, because again, they made so many unfamiliar changes. Let's start with pretty much the biggest change of them all, Cassandra Cain. Cassandra Cain in the comics is Batgirl, or at least one of them. She's a mute girl and the daughter of Lady Shiva and David Cain, an incredible martial artist and assassin in the world. She was raised and trained to be the ultimate assassin, and she has a unique ability of reading people's body language to anticipate their movements. But that's at the cost of her forming some form of a dyslexia that makes her mute and illiterate. Her assassination career didn't go so well for her. During her first assassination mission, she successfully killed a man, but thanks to her body language reading skill, she also read the body language of the person she killed, and the experience is very traumatizing for her to say the least. From that point on, she doesn't really like killing people, and she joins the Bat family as Batgirl. That sounds like a very cool backstory, right? Yeah, let's throw that out the window. Let's give the name Cassandra Cain to this generic Asian girl who likes to pickpocket. Also, not Cass is written to be Harley Quinn's protege. That's right, the character that is supposed to be fighting Harley Quinn is now written to be together with Harley Quinn. This is the worst treatment of Cassandra Cain since that time where DC decided that turning her into a villain is a good thing. As for the rest of the characters, I'm not that knowledgeable in how they're depicted in the comics compared to the Bat families, but I'll still give my take nonetheless. Like I said, this version of Renee Montoya is a lot older than how she's usually depicted. This version of Huntress is pretty cool, until they turn her into a joke character. This version of Black Canary is... Actually, I have no problem with this version of Black Canary. She's fine. Better than fine, actually. She's very cool, and I wouldn't mind if the film focused solely on her, which a lot of times it does. As for Black Mask, he's fine. But what about Harley Quinn herself? Well, I'm glad that Margot Robbie has her own film as Harley Quinn because she's actually pretty good as Harley Quinn. But this isn't really her film. This is her film and a bunch of other people that somehow just got roped into the mix. And I feel like that those people don't really have to be there. A story about just Harley Quinn would be interesting in the same manner as a story about just Joker would be interesting. The fact that she needs help from other Birds of Prey members in order to make her story just shows that she still needs someone else to make her story more interesting. The same way she still needs someone else in her life to support her after she broke up with Joker. Harley Quinn doesn't really show any growth of character in this one. Joker does, and by Joker I mean the Joaquin Phoenix Joker, but not Harley Quinn. Harley Quinn is just there to beat the living crap out of people for her own gain. And yes, I suppose if you're just there for the action, it's not the worst thing ever. There are some nice action in the film, but a couple of nice action scenes aren't enough to handle what a troubled mess this film is. I'm not talking about the plot structure. In fact, I kinda like the way Harley tells her story. I'm talking about the plot's significance to the overall character. I'm talking about what the plot means towards Harley's character development. I'm talking about character growth, the actual emancipation that appears in the film's title, which doesn't seem to exist. What I'm saying is, it doesn't really tell a story that has a meaning to it. It doesn't serve a purpose to Harley Quinn's character development. It doesn't serve a purpose to the DCEU. It doesn't serve any purpose in particular. It's just there to be a film that's just there. It's a film that was made to be entertaining, but it clearly only works to some people and not others. I'm not sure why this film has to exist, and I don't think the marketing of this film even knows why it has to exist alongside any other films of the DCEU. And by marketing, I mean lack thereof, because there's not a lot of marketing surrounding this film, not a lot of hype surrounding this film, not a lot of people getting really excited to see a Harley Quinn film starring Margot Robbie. It's a rather odd film to market too. I mean, I'm not really sure who this film is really for. Is it for the people who are fans of Birds of Prey in the comics? Because the important characters from Birds of Prey aren't even there. Is it for people who love Harley Quinn? I mean, while Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn is one of the standouts of Suicide Squad, Suicide Squad isn't exactly a well-received film. So not well-received that James Gunn had to step in and make another one. Is it for women who like comic books or films? Well, I believe that they do exist, but are they big enough to make a box office return? Considering that half of the people who watch this film are still men, and the film still bomb, clearly not. Nothing about this film is exciting. Nothing about this film makes people to go, wow, I really want to see this film. Wow, I can't wait to see this film. Wow, this film makes me want to stand Harley, etc. So with not a lot of excitement and the overall film's concept to be uninteresting and not attractive for any sorts of target demographic, are you guys really that surprised that not a lot of people watched this film and that it bombed? Or maybe that's too complex of an explanation. The reason is men just hate women. That's not the real reason, but I use small words so that you'll be sure to understand. You know, for a creature that is supposed to go fast, this little blue hedgehog is pretty late to arrive in my freaking theaters. Better late than never, I suppose. I got myself a treat at a midnight screening of Sonic the Hedgehog a couple of days before the actual release of the film, which was smartly released on Saturday because the kids don't have school the next day. Anyway, Sonic the Hedgehog is a film about a titular character who has to escape from his world into our real world because a bunch of echidnas are looking for him in his world. And yes, to all the weebs out there, you heard that right. Sonic the Hedgehog is basically reverse isekai, like your Devil is a Part-Timer or Gabriel Dropout, or at least in our perspective. After escaping from his world and going through lots of them in 10 years, Sonic accustomed himself into our world in the small town of Green Hills, and formed a bond with the town and its people. Indirectly, by spying on them and peeking through their houses. That's not very cool. After realizing that he feels very lonely, you know, for a creature that goes on in supersonic speed, that's 10 years too late to have those thoughts, he rage quits and causes a massive blackout in the location around him, which piqued the interest of one Dr. Robotnik, played by Jim Carrey, who is called Eggman by Sonic in the film. Can Sonic escape from Dr. Robotnik's evil clutches and maybe form a friendship along the way? Can Harley Quinn escape from their clutches and maybe form friends along the way? You know what? Maybe these two films aren't as different as I thought. Unfortunately, in the past couple of years, Sonic as a gaming IP isn't really doing so well. The last game that they released was Forces, and it's not a game well received by everyone. There were also the cartoons, and Sonic Boom aired for a while, and the kids loved them, I guess. So putting the cartoon aside, this film is probably a lot of kids' introduction to Sonic, because the last time Sonic appeared in a mainstream gaming landscape that I know of was in Smash Bros. Ultimate. which I think kids still play if they're not playing those crappy mobile games. I suppose there's the Mario and Sonic Olympic game, which, oh, by the way, that game existed. So yeah, Sonic has this film to prove to everyone that Sonic is cool again, and Sega need to do something about this franchise. Now that I've seen the film, what do I think of it? Well, it's good. I really like it. It's not exactly the best film ever, but it is certainly one of the very few decent films based off of a video game. The last one was Detective Pikachu, and that one was also pretty good, and I like it. And I'm saying this as someone who isn't a huge fan of both Pokemon and Sonic. Fans of Sonic, including my girlfriend, really loves the film, so if you're a fan of the series, I think you'll love it, and you'll be picking up more Easter eggs and references that you might love. Yes, it's a film made primarily for kids, but you can still enjoy it as an adult. There are quite a lot of jokes that are still very funny for the adult mind. There are even jokes that I laugh and other people in the theaters don't, because either they don't get it or my sense of humor is messed up. And of course, the kids will love it because it's Sonic, and Sonic is, well, just a kid, which means he loves to play around with things that look cool to him, and he's also really annoying. In fact, my girlfriend says that compared to his previous incarnations, this version of him is on crack. Well, he was. But still, that's what you expect from a mascot character like him. He needs to behave like a kid, talk like a kid, and ask the kids in the audiences if they want to be his friend. And also the adults who still think like a kid. But to me, the absolute show stealer of the film was Jim Carrey as Dr. Robotnik. He is perfect. He managed to encapsulate Dr. Robotnik's mad scientist quirkiness while still being, well, Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey returns to playing as himself back in the 90s. Now sure, he didn't really look like Robotnik until the very end of the film, but I still really love seeing his evolution from Jim Carrey with a funny mustache into the actual Dr. Robotnik that we all know and love from the video games. This film does open up for more possibilities of a sequel, and I honestly can't wait for that. By the way, stay up for the mid-credit scene in the film for a bit of a surprise. As for the flaws, I really can't think of anything, because I expected this film to be a mildly entertaining kids film, and it's exactly that, a mildly entertaining kids film. I don't expect this film to be a masterpiece of the ages or an all-time classic, and you'll be very disappointed if you think that way, but I set my expectations right on this film, and this film satisfies that expectation. I suppose there are nitpicks. Like I said, the 10-year gap between baby Sonic and current Sonic was a bit jarring, and it doesn't make sense that he only feels lonely after 10 years. You know, considering that this is a reverse isekai, I am half expecting Sonic to evolve into the gamer sloth that was Gabriel and becoming a VTuber. Oh god, let's not go there. I do want to see more interaction between Sonic and his human partner James Marsden's character Tom. They did build up, albeit very briefly, a relationship between Tom and his wife. They did build up that Tom wants to go outside of Green Hills to San Francisco to become a better cop and explore the world. But there's a little bit of a kerfuffle between him and Sonic about that, because Sonic loves Green Hills. The way they argue, it's kind of like a kid arguing with an adult moving to a different place. In the same way I want those kids to mature and understand adult issues, I do want to see Sonic to be confronted with more adult real-world issues and to mature and understand those adult issues. But not to the extent that Ted would. Do you know that film with Mark Wahlberg with the living teddy bear? That was 8 years ago. In conclusion, Sonic the Hedgehog is good for a kid's film. You bring your kids to this film and they'll be very entertained by it and not horrified by it. For the adults, it's mildly entertaining, not the best, not the worst, just fine. You'll be somewhat entertained as you babysit your kids to see it. The Sonic fans absolutely love this film, and if you've already seen it, if you're one, if you haven't, go check it out. Just don't expect it to be an amazing film or anything. It's an adequate film to be entertained by. It's clear that Harley and Sonic's films are two completely different films with completely different mindsets to go to, and yet somehow, both films ended up in the crosshairs of the recent culture war. This article, for example, Sonic the Hedgehog is expected to make more money than Birds of Prey in its opening weekend. What bull... A lot of these attempts in making these two things a cultural issue is baffling to me, but it's not entirely unexpected. Compared to Sonic, Birds of Prey is the one that has the most politically charged hooplas, obviously, because of the all-female cast. Despite the really low box office reception, Birds of Prey still has their woke Twitter fans. They're really active on Twitter, telling people that if you don't like this film or didn't see the film, you're somehow a misogynist or whatever. Birds of Prey stans are using this film to prove to everyone that Men are just misogynists who refuse to see a superhero film with women in them. We all know that's not true. Regardless of your opinions on Captain Marvel or Wonder Woman or Alita Battle Angel, people still went out to see these films, some loving them in fact. And once again, there are more male audiences in the theaters compared to the female audiences because more men are interested in comic book films than women. One hilarious and obviously fake outrage attempt is a freaking copy-pasta series of tweets telling people that they shouldn't see the Sonic film because it has a homophobic joke in it or something, and that they should take their kids to see Birds of Prey. Don't take your kids to see Birds of Prey, an R-rated film. If you do, you have utterly failed as a parent. By the way, if you actually check the date on these tweets, all of them were made before the Sonic film is even out in the theaters, so yes, clearly fake. So yeah, the manufactured conflict between these two films is absolutely ridiculous, but if I have to make a comparison between the two films, it's how the two films treated their fans. Birds of Prey is a film that just utterly trashes the fans for not liking it, while Sonic is pretty indifferent to the haters. Not a lot of social media posts or Sonic stans vehemently defending this film or calling the haters of the film misogynist or something. And this is the Sonic fanbase we're talking here. They are very well known for being toxic, or at least a decade ago. Another thing that the two films did that are more worthy of discussion are the target demographic and the marketing. Like I said, Birds of Prey is not really certain on who the film was supposed to be for, and that confused target audience leads into a film with a random but quirky marketing that doesn't really appeal to anyone in particular. Sonic, however, appeals to a lot of people, especially Sonic fans, and especially after the redesign, which shows that the studio is willing to listen to people. It's not just that Sonic is the film that listens to people. Sonic as a franchise hasn't been doing so well, which is why the Sonic fans have either grown up out of their phase or just move on to other stuff. This film might be a catalyst for Sega or the Sonic franchise in general to revitalize people's interest towards Sonic and be on the same level of competence as Mario as a franchise. As for Birds of Prey, I don't know what Birds of Prey is supposed to signify other than it's another mediocre film from the DCEU. It doesn't revolutionize the DCEU, it doesn't do anything new other than being a Harley Quinn live-action film, so I'm still questioning the purpose of the existence of this film. But that's just my take on them at least. In conclusion, the culture war is stupid. I'll be leaving. Support this channel by donating down below, and thanks for watching.